The night I said it, I meant it to hurt. We were at Angela's birthday dinner, 8 of us wedged into a long table at a farm-to-table place with pretentious menus and water in recycled wine bottles. The waiter mixed up the orders, and instead of doing the chest out, "Let me talk to your manager," routine my father perfected, my husband just smiled and said, "No worries. Whenever you can." It was such a Luke move.
Calm.
Accommodating.
Soft.
"Sometimes," I said, with a grin I weaponized, "I miss when men were men." The table went quiet the way a classroom does when someone says the wrong answer with confidence. Luke laughed, a tiny exhale, and reached for his glass like it could hide him. Our daughter, Nora, was at a friend's house. There was no one at the table to save me from myself. On the ride home, he didn't fight. He folded his hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, the hybrid humming like a secret. "Is that how you see me?" he asked, eyes on the road. The tone was worse than anger. It was curiosity. I doubled down. "You do yoga with the neighbor moms, you drive a car that apologizes for existing, you wear an apron that says sourdough dad. You're nice." I spat that last word like it was a flaw. We'd been together 12 years. The first thing I fell in love with was how unfazed he was by chaos. Flat tire? He had roadside assistance on speed dial and a tire gauge in the glove box like a Boy Scout. Lost luggage? He packed a toothbrush in his carry-on. My version of men being men came from a father who pounded on doors and a brother who never asked for directions. I'm not proud of that blueprint. It lives in me anyway. "I handled the wrong order," he said, still mild. "I didn't make a scene. I'm not your dad. That should have been the end." Instead, I said, "Exactly." He parked in our driveway and turned off the car. House lights spilled across the lawn. Inside, the dishwasher blinked Yendi like a small victory. He sat for a moment, hands still, then said, "I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight." This felt like contempt. He didn't slam the door. He just removed himself like a man stepping out of a rip current. In the morning, there was a printed page on the kitchen island, talking points for counseling. He had bullet-pointed my sentence, how it landed, what man means to him, reliable, safe, kind, present, and what he won't perform, aggression, public confrontation, the role of my father. "We can see someone," he said, pouring cereal for Nora like he wasn't shaking. "If we're going to keep going, we should talk about the script we're both reading from." Counseling lasted 4 sessions. I kept thinking the therapist would pick my side once she heard about my father. About the yelling and the unfixable silence after. She didn't pick sides. She drew triangles on a whiteboard and used words like contempt and attachment wounds. She asked, "When you say real men, what are you asking Luke to be that you couldn't rely on growing up?" I said, "Someone who makes me feel like I'm not the only adult in the room." Luke said, "What if I've been doing that and you can't see it because it doesn't look like your father's version?" The 5th session, he didn't show. The counselor waited 5 minutes, then said gently, "Sometimes the person who's been accommodating finally stops." When I got home, he'd packed the guest room. Not a tantrum. Labels on banker boxes, books stacked by height, a sheet of painter's tape on the wall where his art had been like a ghost. There was a note on the counter. "I'm moving to a short-term rental near Nora's school. I've scheduled a consult with a mediator. I don't want war. I want dignity. I won't be the man in your head. I will keep being the father I am." I called him 20 times and got voicemail. I texted, "Are you seriously blowing up our family because I joked at dinner?" He replied, "I'm leaving because contempt is a structural crack, not a joke. Please use our family wizard for anything about Nora." Then, he turned off read receipts. I wish he'd screamed. I wish he'd told a mutual friend I was a monster, so I could play defense. He stuck to the app, the mediator, the polite phrases that feel like sand when you want kindling. Our temporary orders looked the way they always look: curbside exchanges, non-disparagement, first right of refusal if either parent needed more than 8 hours of childcare, no moving Nora more than 100 miles, keep the utilities on, keep the child out of adult business. In the comments, the mediator asked us to read about BIF communication. Brief, informative, friendly, firm. Luke was already fluent. I'll do pickup this week. Band fees due Friday. I'll cover and send receipt. Nora asked about Spirit Day. Blue shirt. No, hope you're well. No, you hurt me. Just logistics. Clean and sharp. I tried to crack him in the cracks. I wrote I'll go back to therapy. I'll stop with the comments. Come home. We're a family. He replied, please keep the app for logistics only. I will not discuss our marriage outside mediation. Nora didn't ask questions at first. 13. Good at reading rooms, better at reading faces. She started making small choices that mapped her allegiance. She kept her soccer cleats at his place because Dad always knows where the bag is. She asked to be picked up from band by him because he doesn't get mad if I'm 5 minutes late. She texted me pictures of the dinners he cooked. Sheet pan chicken and broccoli, the kind of meal that says the evening is under control. She posted a story from his apartment. Him in an apron, flour on his cheek, the caption sourdough dad strikes again, and I could feel the universe enjoying its irony. When she finally asked why we were separating, I tried the approved script. Grown-up problems, I said. Not your fault. Then I slipped. Your father left because he can't handle. I stopped, but Nora is a bloodhound for unfinished sentences. Because you said you wanted a different man, she finished, voice flat. I didn't say that, I lied. I said one dumb thing. Dad said you said it a lot, she replied, not unkind. In different ways. He hadn't told her that. She'd heard it in the edges. My sighs when he deferred, my eye rolls when he offered to fix something with YouTube instead of a hammer. Kids are seismographs. They register tremors adults pretend are drafts. I try to make my case the way a teenager does, which is to say badly. He's soft, I said, then wished I could shove the word back in my mouth.
He's kind, she said. He never yells.
He shows up. He remembers my clarinet reads. He knows when Spirit Day is without emailing 3 moms. You like him because he's easy, I snapped. One day you'll want a man to stand up for you. He already does, she said, shouldering her backpack. Just not by making waiters cry. Luke won by being boring. I mean that as a confession and a compliment. He paid the mortgage until we sold the house because the standing order said to keep doing what we were doing. He forwarded the school nurse's emails to me with FYI. He coordinated the IEP meeting when Nora's math anxiety spiked and let me take the lead in the room because I'm better at questions. He never used the phrase real men. He never tried to be the opposite of whatever I'd accused him of. He simply kept being himself with the volume turned down on me. When a pipe burst at my rental, I called him out of habit. He texted the number of a plumber and wrote, "You've got this." When my car made a noise, he sent a link to a mechanic with Saturday hours and added, "They're fair. Ask for Mike." He didn't come save me. He stopped letting me practice helplessness against his competence. At a Sunday exchange, I tried to talk to him without Nora. The app said he'd arrive at 5:30. I got there at 5:10 on purpose. He pulled up at 5:29. He stood by the open trunk like a boundary. I'm sorry, I said, because the apology had been pressing on my teeth for months. For my father in your mouth. For turning niceness into an insult. He nodded the way a person nods when a doctor gives a diagnosis they've already read online. Thank you, he said. Please put it in writing in the app. Then he waved at Nora and said, Hey, kiddo. He let the apology pass through him without becoming his job. My friends got loud on my behalf. He's giving you the silent treatment. He's manipulating custody by being the chill parent. He's love-bombing her with bread. I watched him show up to every game and cut oranges for the team and never once speak about me beyond. Ask your mom. It's hard to hate a man who refuses to give you a villain. One night at Target. Yes, Target, because where else do truths congregate? Nora and Luke were in the paper goods aisle when a friend of his asked how he was really doing. Later, Nora told me he said, I regret staying in contempt so long. I should have left sooner. She heard him. He didn't know. On the drive home she told him, and he said, I'm sorry you heard that. That was adult talk in the wrong place. He didn't retract the sentence. He owned the mistake. I wanted to be furious. I wanted to print the non-disparagement clause and bring it to court. Instead, I realized he'd given her the one thing I hadn't: a clean line between adult pain and a child's job. She texts him freely. She needs space from me, and then lets the space shrink around snacks and errands and the eyebrow appointment she'll only let me accompany her to because Dad would make it weird.
There are ways back in.
They're small and embarrassing. They require me to be steady without applause. In mediation, there were no fireworks. We split equity. We each kept our retirements. We alternate Christmas. The decree says we will not discuss each other's romantic lives in Nora's presence. We signed where the yellow flags told us to. He walked out with a folder, not a victory lap. If you're waiting for me to say I don't miss real men anymore, here's the truer thing. I finally understand Luke is one. He straps down the fragile things, both in the trunk and in a 15-year-old heart. He doesn't let storms decide the house. He puts quiet between the problem and the fix so he can choose the right tool. When I insulted that, he left. Not loudly, but with the kind of steadiness that makes leaving a structure, not a tantrum. Our daughter learned from the only teacher that matters, the example she stands next to. Did he win?
Yes.
Not because he crushed me, but because he refused to perform a man I invented to soothe an old wound. He stayed who he was. He left with dignity. He kept fatherhood boring and brave. And when Nora looked around to see where solid ground was, she stood next to him. I texted her tonight. Pasta if you want it. No pressure. She wrote back. Maybe after study group. Save me some? I'm learning to make some without needing all. I'm learning that the men I want in my daughter's life don't need a script. They need a spine. He is one. I will grow mine.